but to understand each other on a deeper level. And Nia, turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ben. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nia Taylor, and I am a native Palo Alton, born and raised, and I am also on the Public Art Commission. As Ben said, I've been on the commission for 6 years, and by far this has been the most exciting opportunity that I have had on the commission, and also I think for our commission, an exciting experience for all of us. I wanted to just give a brief introduction about the mural. So I was asked to help co-lead the mural process with Ali Richter, who is also a former commissioner. Both of us are African-American women, and we were very excited to be asked to participate in this wonderful opportunity. We had 89 applicants, which was pretty amazing considering we only did this call for a few days, and we got an amazing response, as most of you know, and it was really hard for us to choose 16 artists, but we did. We chose artists based on a lot of different factors, including race, gender, age, locality, artistic style, and also by their artist statement. We really wanted to make sure that we had a diverse group of artists from various walks of life who could all talk and share various experiences about why Black Lives Matter. I'm also very thankful for Stefania Pamponi, who is a Palo Alto resident, and the city of Palo Alto City Council for getting this moving and helping us make this wonderful experience happen. And thank you all to all the artists here joining us today. We were so excited, and I'm blessed and happy to have you all here to be talking about the panel, and that you were able to submit your artwork and end up participating in this wonderful, wonderful piece of history for the city of Palo Alto. So thank you. We're gonna now start with our questions. So what I'm gonna ask is I have each of our panelists are going to answer a starting question about why they got involved in the Black Lives Matter mural, so who they are, and their experience, just so we get to know a little bit about them. They're each gonna have 2 minutes to share, and then we have a couple of other questions we would like to ask to get to know you more and to get to hear your backgrounds and your ideas and thoughts. So I'm going to start with Dr. Masuma Ahmed, who designed the letter C. And Dr. Ahmed, I know you are on the phone, so can you hear us?
Okay, I unmute myself. Can you hear me now?
I can, yes. So for 2 minutes, if you can just tell us who you are and tell us how you got involved in this project and how it was, what your experience was.
Okay, so I'm Masuma Ahmed, and I got involved because I'm a colored diaspora women artist, and I feel very strongly about the Black Lives Matter because I also, as a colored woman, I faced a lot of discrimination, but not to that level as the Black people feel. And without the Black folks, without addressing the issues that the Black community is facing, we cannot really become a racially equitable society. So it's very imperative for me to create transformation changes in our system by addressing the BLF issues. And that's one of the main reasons that I got involved. I'm a firm believer of BLM.
Wonderful, thank you.
Anything else you want to know?
Not yet, we'll come back to you shortly.
Okay, thank you.
The next artist I would like to introduce is Urna Bajracharya. I hope I said that correctly. And she designed the letter L. So go ahead, Urna.
Hi, my name is Urna. I'm from Nepal, and I'm a student at UCLA. I'm a second year doing a bachelor's in design. I applied so that I could hopefully be part of the dialogue about racial equity in Palo Alto. And it was important, or it was special that it was in Palo Alto because it's an area that is so affluent and powerful, meaning that the potential effect in the American institution would be more profound because Palo Alto residents hold powerful job positions. So that was my reason in applying. And so for the part that's what my experience, there was an event that happened. I don't know if you guys know about it, but it was the media like outburst of that PC's mural of the Bajracharya. I mean, so I got involved in that because I'm an activist and I was in a group that was helping support the Bajracharya story. And we held a press conference and we handed out flyers. So it was disappointing to see like how little the Palo Alto community kind of like tried to discover her side of the story, I guess, because there was a lot of fake news and like most of like the Palo Alto outlets kind of decided with that instead of like discovering her story. So I just wanted to say that my experience was great in painting the mural, but the event that came after was a little disappointing and frustrating.
Thank you, Urna. We'll come back to that. Next, we have Sarah Joy Espinoza-Evans, who designed our letter V. Sarah, take it away.
So my name is Sarah Joy, and yes, I have 2 first names and 2 last names, and it doesn't always fit on all the lines. So I was born and raised in the Bay Area, and oh wow, and I have to say that one thing that kind of colored my life as I was growing up was a concept of shame. And as in my family, there was just so many things that we didn't talk about. And one of them was race or ethnicity or background. I knew that I had a mixed background, but I was never really told anything about my ancestors or my great grandparents or anything like that. And then as I became an adult, I began to actually discover my family's true history and just kind of processing all the emotions. And I don't know, this whole mural process, I felt very, very emotional. I cried a lot actually before and after creating it, just as I come to terms kind of with my own identity. And it's not like a outward political issue for me. It's a very internal issue. And then also I had the privilege to work as an art teacher for elementary school students in Palo Alto and East Palo Alto for about 3 years between 2016, 2015, I think 2018. And so I really wanted to work on this mural to kind of help give a voice to some of the students I had worked with who didn't really have their own voice.
Thank you, Sarah. Next, we have Elizabeth Foggie, who designed the letter E. One of several E's.
Yes, hi. As you can see, I cut off all my locks. That was 10 years of a lot of personal healing and growth, and also some familial healing. I'm from the South. I'm from North Florida, Jacksonville, Florida. And so for me, this mural, there's so many like intersections. When I came to Palo Alto is when I really began to delve back into my art. I had kind of turned away from it as a child. I would do it a lot, and then around high school I kind of dropped it and went into the sciences. And so when I came to Palo Alto, my art and my healing journey kind of went hand in hand. And then I was also had the opportunity to be part of the CASP, the Coverly Artists Studio program in Palo Alto. And then about, I think it was a year ago, about a year ago, I was stopped by 3 police officers in a van while riding my bike, enjoying the sun on my skin on Halloween, which for me is very significant because that's the Day of the Dead or the Day of the Ancestors. or that's that period of time. So it was kind of like this meeting of all of these things. And so when I heard about this call, I was like, oh, wow, okay, I feel like this is coming full circle. It's 10 years since I've been in California. This feels really significant. And today is my birthday. So it's all kind of lining up. So for me, it was a way for me to begin to process more of that experience, which was extremely traumatic for me. And also a way to kind of take some ownership and authorship of what that experience is going to mean for me moving forward with my life and how I show up in the world. So yeah, just being a Black woman in America, I mean, come on. And then all the fields that I work in are very male and very white. So yeah, I'm excited to be part of this process. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Elizabeth, and happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yes, I won't ask you how old you are, though. Okay, next. Oh, wonderful. You look so young. Okay, next we have our upcoming teas. We have Brianna Brown. Or is it Brianna or Brianna? I'm sorry if I've...
It's Briena.
Brianna. Wonderful. Brianna, take it away. Welcome.
Yeah, so I'm Brianna Brown. I am a senior at San Jose State with a sociology major and a studio art minor. This is definitely a different experience for me personally because I'm more of an acrylic artist on canvas. But I got involved with this because I really wanted to be part of something bigger than myself. Growing up as a Black woman, my father made sure to teach me about what it means to be Black, both the beauty of the culture and like the challenges that we face as well. I grew up in Mountain View, which is a neighboring city, and which is also predominantly white. So I was really excited to hear that a city so close to my own was giving artists a platform to express themselves during this movement. Something I didn't expect. And overall, I had a great experience doing this mural. I'm really thankful for the opportunity to connect with the other artists, but it was a really good, it was a good experience, and I just got involved with it because I felt like public art was a really good way to call attention to certain issues that matter. Although it's not all that needs to be done, but I definitely want to be part of that conversation.
Wonderful. We're glad to have you. Thank you. Next, we have Shiraaz Bhabha.
That's right. Hi, everyone. I'm Shiraaz. So I've been, I guess, a native of the Bay Area, I would say, for the last 27 years. I grew up in India and I moved here to live, I guess, the American dream. So here I am, not quite the dream right now, but as far as the mural goes, I guess my background has been in art and design for the last almost 30 years, I would say. And I was just wondering how I could help. I think just the Black Lives Movement is such a big part of everyone's lives. And I think art was just a great way that I could stand in solidarity, I guess, with the Black Lives Matter movement. So yeah, it was a super exciting thing to do, and I was glad to be part of it. So, yep.
Thank you.
Sure.
And next we have Stuart Robertson and Amram, and we're very lucky to have several individuals joining us to do the mural, but also several groups and friends. And so Stuart and Adam are one such group. So take it away.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Stewie Robertson. I'm from Kingston, Jamaica, and I've actually spent the majority of my time in the US on the East Coast. So I came to Stanford to do my MFA in 2018. I just finished up in June, and it was a very rocky, unexpected ending to that sort of process. And I've been working on my studio practice, which is a very internal experience. And so as the world was sort of on fire in different ways than it is right now, actually, which is kind of strange. I felt very sort of paralyzed and crippled by not being able to go out and do certain things because I have to be mindful of my, just my role as a Black male in this country. I can't really give up certain freedoms too easily. So, trying to avoid sort of interactions with the police and, thinking twice about going out to protest in certain ways. So this felt like a very appropriate way to get involved. And I'm also a teacher, so a lot of the community experiences I've had and a lot of my interactions with youth have been through mural making. So that was also a very big incentive. And quite frankly, I was just shocked that this was going to happen in Palo Alto. I didn't think I would even see this last this long with the kind of effort that's been put into preserving it. So I'm happy I was able to be a part of that and to get Adam to join me.
Sweet. Yeah, I was just going to add to a little bit of what Stewie said. My name's Adam. Stewie, friend of mine, I met at Stanford through the cohort who my partner is currently a student, MFA, second year at Stanford. Yeah, I guess when Stewie invited me to do this mural project, I was really excited. I guess my difference with the other artists is I actually didn't personally apply with my own work. Stewie invited me as a collaborator, which was super generous of him. And I was really excited. I didn't really question whether or not I was going to participate. I was like, yes, let's do it. I grew up I was born in Israel. My family, when I was very young, moved to Georgia. I grew up in Georgia, then studied in Baltimore at the Maryland Institute College of Art, painting and printmaking. And then I moved on to live and work in Philly as an artist. And I just recently moved here last year to Palo Alto. So as you can imagine, it's a very different city than those that kind of shaped my perspective as a young developing artist. And I was kind of excited to be participating in a mural of this magnitude here. And yeah, I don't know, I guess if we're using this space to talk about our experience during it, or we're going to get back to it, but I had a really nice time working with Stewie and painting, and I can elaborate later, and it's nice to meet everybody, and yeah.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you all. Ben is going to ask the next question.
All right, thank you, Nia, and thank you all for your answers to that very first question. It's very informative. Next question. How can public art amplify and help bring about racial equity initiatives? And we can jump right in. Don't have to raise a hand, just jump right in if you want to say something.
I'll go.
Okay.
And just quickly, I guess for me, obviously as an artist, I'm a very visual learner, and a lot of times when people talk about things, or even like on radio or news or whatever, and things are verbal, I don't really understand, I don't really get it. Or if it is too visually like overstimulating, like really kind of intense graphic violence, then I sort of will just fade it out because I can't process, or there's too much to process. So I think what artists do for like the world and for our community is we create visual imagery that is kind of more maybe curated or more pointed, maybe more like edited, or just maybe that wouldn't exist outside of the art world. So we're giving a visual to the common problems that don't have a visual to exist. And I think sometimes we already are just overloaded on words, which is why I'm going to keep this short. And I think if we could just be quiet for a while and just look and observe, I think sometimes we could learn so much quicker. So that's what I think public art does.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel sorry, can I speak, or do you want to speak?
No, go ahead.
Okay, this is Masuma. I feel the part of public art is engaging the public and making them aware of the issues. And for BLM, it's very critical that people get aware. And by initiating this BLM mural in Palo Alto, the city did a great service in terms of like, I now participate in discussions, not just here, but in our neighborhood. People, and I was amazed that people are not aware of it. And people did visit those public art places, like they visited the BLM murals. It's not like gallery art. Public art is much more powerful in bringing people together, making them aware of the issues, and also making them feel powerful and engage them in discussions to come up with action plans to address these issues. And BLM, and I've seen, and I participate in many of these discussion forums in my neighborhood, in the city. And that's where the power of public art lies, that it not only makes people aware of the issues, but also make people to take initiatives in coming up with actions to address those issues and mitigate them. And also bringing the people together in the neighborhood, which is very different from the gallery art. Gallery art is also visual, but it doesn't make people the sense of belonging, the sense that they belong to a community, and they feel very energized. And by just participating in the mural project, I was able to make people, I didn't even know these people, 20 or more so people came to help me out. And I'm physically a little bit handicapped, so I needed some help. And all these people showed up, and they later on sent me email. I didn't even know them. I never even met them before. That they felt energized and powerful, and to be part of this BLM movement by engaging in this mural project. So that's where the strength of public art lies, bringing the community together, bringing the belong together, and create an equitable systems. That's where the power of public art lies. And it brings also the power of people. People have powers in making decisions, in taking actions, and making it an equitable systems. The Blacks are the most vulnerable populations in our society today, and that need to be addressed. And as I said, as a colored woman, I felt discrimination, and I still feel it, but not to that level as Black people are. So that's why I'm very, very committed to address those issues, and not just, but art. Public art is one media. It's the first step. It has to go beyond that, like as city is trying to do, not just generate discussions, but also taking actions.
Wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome.
And it's hard for you to see because you're on the phone, but there's a couple of other participants who have some thoughts as well that they want to add. So thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, I just want to also briefly state that in the public space, it can become part of like your routine. And so you get used to it being a certain way, and it kind of becomes kind of like a habit. And so sometimes as a result, it can kind of dull your senses to what's around you. So when you show up in the public space, you're not as present. And so I think part of the value of public art is it disrupts that. It disrupts that kind of habitual nature that we have when we go into the public space. It has the opportunity to, that disruption causes a level of vulnerability, and that vulnerability makes us more open to conversations, because it's disrupting kind of like a habit that we're used to kind of participating in, and a way of comporting ourselves when we're in the public space. And so I think to me, that's really one of the pivotal values, along with what everybody else has said in terms of creating discourse and its visual nature. is the ability to kind of disrupt the mundane and really allow people to show up in a different way, to be present in the public space in a different way.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, as someone who sort of operates in both public, sort of community focused work, and then the fine arts sort of gallery space as well, it's very obvious that there's a sort of mystification of the art process, right? And when you see something show up and you don't quite know who made it or how it was made, and as far as you're concerned, it's a thing that you're supposed to like or respect, but you weren't involved in that process. I think to see a mural get set up overnight, see the lines go down, to show up the next day and see artists and see them sweating in the sun, and to see the different staff that were there helping to make sure that things were going smoothly, to see volunteers show up, to have people stop by with their dogs and their kids and ask questions. It actually, it invites a different kind of conversation, because people don't feel like this is some outside element or object that just showed up and, they weren't a part of it. They actually get to talk to us and they actually get to ask questions. And you can tell when someone was working out if they were upset about this happening or not. But, I think most of the artists were pretty likable people, and, we were able to talk to them and kind of get them to understand where we're coming from. And I think that changed a lot of the relationships to this mural as it exists now. And I think that's a big part of why a lot of people wanted to keep it. And so I think just the actual art making process is what's important about public art in this capacity.
But don't you feel also that it also gives the community the sense of ownership? So it makes it very equitable, sense of equity, rather than like something in a gallery. When you visit,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
very personal and very individualistic. Whereas here, the community feels that they own it.
Yeah, to a certain extent, there's
That's very powerful.
Yeah, kind of adding on to what you just said, Stuart. Yeah, for me personally, I feel like I had a lot of really productive conversations for weeks after the mural ended. A lot of people asking about it, and just public art in general. I feel like it's just such an important tool when it comes to connecting people of different socioeconomic backgrounds. I've always said that, art can blur the lines of individual difference, which basically means that it allows a space for any individual to understand what the artist is thinking, feeling, or just trying to express in general. And then, art also gives the viewer an opportunity to kind of just absorb the message without thoughts of the artist's race, religion, age, gender, sexual orientation, citizenship, etc. And although that's not always the case, the first step in racial equity initiatives is a desire to understand another's perspective in the same way we do when we first see a mural, poetry, or sculpture, any type of art. And although art is a great tool for amplifying this movement and encouraging positive dialogue among the community who might not fully understand the Black experience, racial equity initiatives are something that definitely need to be more prioritized, after the fact of all the art and stuff. But I agree with what you said. It's a good point.
Something I just wanted to add quickly was, I don't know if I'm muted. No, okay. Yeah, it's like, I feel like speaking onto what the other artists were already saying, just the public art is like an artifact that represents the larger bureaucracy that is kind of given the approval for the message we're working on. So in our case, Black Lives Matter, that sentiment echoing in the space of Palo Alto, I think is important, especially when we expect the public to go out and internalize that sentiment. And speaking on to the locational specificity of it being right in front of City Hall, we can talk more about how it worked in that space. But a lot of the community spoke about how police would have to interact with that mural, contend with that message on a day-to-day. And I thought that was important, whether it worked out or not. It's kind of like this momentum that is ignited. And again, just echoing back to, I think maybe what Elizabeth was talking about, going into this, breaking that habitual space of seeing something every day and being surprised by it. That's like the most, I think, profound aspect to public art. It really just kind of engages people in a much different way. Yeah, it forces that engagement.
And I heard several of you mention that there's a difference between studio art and public art. And I've been in the public art field for a long time, and I think that's an overarching thing about public art, the difference from studio art. So what difference did you see doing something that you do for yourself as opposed to public art? And I think you mentioned you're out on the street, you're doing it, people are coming up and talking to you, and you're explaining it. So how did you find that experience, whether you're doing it when you're in the studio and you're by yourself, basically, or when you're out and doing it publicly? So what was the difference for you in that, and how did it make you feel?
Okay, this is Masuma. When I did the public art, the BLM mural, and also I did it in Harlem, it's engaging people and feeling the sense of community, which I don't feel when I do the studio art. I do it by myself and I feel some emotional stuff. So this is an outburst of my emotion and I plan for it. It's a different kind of planning and different kind of creativity compared to the public art, where it's also the involvement, as someone was mentioning, this engagement. We engage, we feel powerful to work together. And this comradeship is not there in the studio art. We are not creating together, and the sense of belonging together, and the sense of ownership together, and also feeling a part of the community. That's not there in the studio art, which is completely different creative process. And that's where I feel the strength of public art lies. And it tells stories from all different perspectives, from all different people coming together. Like, I have no idea about the Black art. I don't have any idea about the Latino art, but when you work together, we not only learn together from each other, but is also contributing together as a powerful force. And that's what I find public art is so strong. That's my 2 cents.
I know for myself, when I make art in the studio or in my room, I am an overthinker. I am naturally an overthinker. So I will overthink a piece to the point of paralysis. Whereas when I find and maybe this is just how I am in general, but when I find that I have to communicate something to somebody else, I tend to get to the point quicker. And so I found myself, one, almost kind of externally motivated, knowing that there was a deadline, knowing that there was something very clear that I wanted to communicate, and I could get to that point quicker. Whereas I feel like there's no real ending point when it comes to work that I'm doing in the studio. It's just I decide at some point to pause and say it's finished, but it's never really finished. And so that was the big difference for me.
So I kind of agree with Elizabeth, and I guess what Masuma said too. I think when you're working on your own piece of art, it's almost like, analysis paralysis. You just kind of sometimes just overthink and think. And I just think this was just such an amazing collaborative effort. And I applied for this, and when I found out I got it, I reached out to a few friends, and Nama, Larissa, Susan, I can name all my friends who were there that day, but they just were like, hey, you're doing this, that's awesome, we'll be there with you, right? And they all showed up, and it wasn't just me. I felt like it was this huge collaborative effort, and it was just so much fun doing it together. So I don't know, it was just an amazing experience. Yeah.
I also want to add that I also felt it was more powerful to make street art rather than sitting in my room and making like art on a piece of canvas or sketchbook. It felt more charged, meaning like other people were going to see it and process that piece of work and maybe shift something in their own mind, which was more powerful. And I thoroughly enjoyed that process.
Thank you all. I'll have to say, in addition to all of you being artists, however you define the word artist, you also are activists. So thank you for being that. So our next question I wanted to ask all of you is, we know that the mural is a first step. At least we hope it's a first. And my next question for you is, what is your call that this mural has done and will continue to do for the city of Palo Alto, for yourselves, for our nation? I wanted to share a quote that I was thinking about that I grew up with that says, "You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to desist from it." So I was hoping you could share your thoughts about what's next.
I'm going to just jump right in there and be pretty straight to the point. For me, I think it's really important that we not separate the Black experience from the human experience, because that's kind of what got us into this mess to begin with. Black people are human, and so their stories and their experiences are part of the larger narrative of what it is to be an American, what it means to be a human. And so I would like to see more of those stories and all of the full spectrum of the emotions and of the experience of what that is individually, all the different ways, the nuances in which that shows up, to be included in more conversations and to be included in more media and more art. And I also want to see more Black artists get more money. I want to see more of them, and I want to see more of them get more money, because we live in a capitalist society, and that's what we need to really be visible and be seen. So those are my two calls to action for sure. Here
Okay.
are some stories and give
Excellent point. Very excellent point. That's why I want, the Black issue is very pertinent and very important, very critical. But what I see is also, with all due respect to the city of Palo Alto, I feel city needs to take actions in terms of involving and commissioning artists from all different sectors. For example, not just Black women, Black artists, but also the immigrant artists, the Native American artists, the Latino artists. Because bringing all this together, as you mentioned, Brianna, the stories will be so powerful, coming from all different communities and so vibrant. And Palo Alto will be just very different place. And those stories need to be told, but they have to be involved, not only commissioned to do the art, but also in the decision-making process. Because the diversity, if you don't bring the diversity together, diverse community together, and get involved also, not just commissioning them, but also let them participate in the decision-making process, we are not going to achieve the goal, the BLM mural.
And yeah, Masuma, if I can just add to what you're saying, I definitely agree, because Palo Alto is a very ethnically diverse place. So there's a lot of different cultures that come together because of the technology and the great education and healthcare. So there is, I agree, lots and lots of different layers. I guess for me, I have my two calls of action is, of course, as an educator, I think that we need to work more with schools and with children on more racial exposure. So when I was growing up, I had friends from all over the world, because that's just happened to be the neighborhood that I lived in. It was very diverse, and I never really thought, twice about people's language or hair color or skin color or anything. But a lot of students don't have that privilege. So I think we need to work on that that sharing of culture and identity when when people are young. I think if we only focus on adults, then we're really focusing too late. We're missing a huge opportunity. And, you know, even as adults can be forward thinking, a lot of times they're still set in their ways based on the childhood that they grew up in. The other thing I would say is that I was in communication with I don't know if he's an artist, but he was a DJ, and he was trying to get a mural in wait, am I missing Los Altos? Was it Los Altos? Yeah, I was about to say Los Altos Hills.
Los Altos.
And then and then just received a lot of negative feedback. He was saying that, you know, people's like, okay, well, now everyone can submit an idea for a mural. Let's do Purple Lives Matter. Let's do Blue Lives Matter. You can't do Black Lives Matter. You can only say Black is beautiful because Black Lives Matter is political. And like, so finally he said, I've had enough, you know, I'm not wasting my time on these people anymore. And then he just kind of abandoned the project. And I was just really disappointed by that and really saddened. That people could still be so, I guess, immature and kind of antagonistic in a city so close to Palo Alto where it feels like we're making progress. So I would like to see that progress expand into more of the neighboring cities as well.
I agree with you, but what you said about these racial prejudices, even in Palo Alto, I'm involved, as I said, I'm involved in the discussion processes, and I participate in a lot of the forums, neighborhood forums. Ignorance is very much widespread. Sorry to say that. And that's why I feel where public art, if I'm thinking just of the Palo Alto Public Art Program, has the strength to make people aware of the BLM issues, because people are still ignorant. And as you said, being from another minority group, I belong, people are not aware of the cultures, the traditions from all different diverse communities. And we need to bring those, make people aware of that. And as you say, it starts from the school, from the childhood. And I agree with it, but I'm not sure whether Palo Alto Public Art Organization, and correct me if I'm wrong, can get involved in those areas and start to educate people into those areas.
Thank you, Masuma. I want to give a couple of other artists a chance to speak. Brianna, go ahead.
Hi, sorry. I wanted to go back to kind of what you just said, Sarah, about like the bigger picture. I just want to point out like this mentality that we all are trained to have since we're kids, that's just the way things work, or that's just the way the world works. We need to break this sense of acceptance that equity is impossible, like as a community. And kind of like what you mentioned, I really do think that Santa Clara County just needs to do better. We need to set the example for our neighboring counties and encourage others to break down those racial barriers, especially since this location is the heart of the tech industry. And I guess to be more specific about like what my call to action is Facebook needs to withdraw its funding from the Menlo Police Department immediately. The police department is known for false arrests, planting evidence, lying under oath, and not following police protocol, all of which terrorizes and harms marginalized communities within and around Palo Alto. Our communities need to come together and boycott those events that Facebook hosts until this company can prove that they're not willing to fund harmful police activity. And I also think that just on a larger scale, tech companies in this area, they need to do better. They need to hire more Black individuals, and not just Black individuals who look like me. It's not only in executive, well, not only in the office, but just in executive positions as well, to ensure that the needs of those Black individuals are being amplified rather than overlooked. And although there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and these calls to action are just a small portion of it, as we all know, we can't expect any long-term national solutions to be created if we aren't working within our own communities to support the underrepresented and overlooked racial minority. So yeah, those are my two call to actions.
Yeah, you know, a lot of that, but also I would say you know, the fact that there's a Palo Alto and an East Palo Alto is highly problematic. You know, the fact that for 2 years, I saw less than 1% of the actual Black community that lives in Palo Alto just out and about. Anyone that was Black that was near was somehow affiliated through Stanford or people coming to the area to do business. I don't think I met that many local folks. And a lot of that has to do with the geographical and the economic separation of the communities, right? So I think scrapping that distinction needs to be sort of top of the list, and that way resources can be integrated. As Elizabeth said, pay people, pay artists, find them and support them. We can't do this work if we're not fed, and if we don't feel confident that, it's sort of this unhealthy thing where like everything you do must be its best version of itself, must be the most potent version of itself, just so that you can have a shot at collecting a little bit of cash off of the stipend. If we felt more financially secure, you take bigger risks, you go after bigger projects, you'd be more willing to sort of have collaborations and try new things that aren't as financially profitable, but you would be supported regardless. And so that sparks a certain kind of artistic endeavor. So I'd say, that one is a given. Pay people who don't have easy access to resources, materials, and opportunities. But yeah, we got to fix this whole separation of the communities in Palo Alto and East Palo Alto, because quite frankly, these tech companies, just by being here, are making money. They get the top recruits because they're here, right? Like, if it was possible, I'd say charge them to set up shop in Palo Alto, right? Force them to reinvest at the start, not after they've made their billions and collected what they want, right? It should be an incentive for them to come here, do good work, and then promote good work, right? And it should all exist as one system.
Thank you,
I agree
Stuart.
with you.
Dr. Masuma, I don't want to interrupt you, but we have a little less than 7 minutes to go, and we have 3 panelists who haven't had a chance to speak on the last topic. So I'm going to ask Shiraaz, Adam, or Urna if one of you would like to share any comments or calls to action, please. And Shiraaz, I think you're talking, but it looks like
I'm muted.
And then
Go
Adam,
ahead.
you'll go next.
Okay. No, I was just going to say I agree with everything that people have said. I don't really have much to add to this point right now, but yeah, go ahead.
Cool. I wanted to. I feel like everything everybody said was so on point. I wanted to add that I was kind of trying to do my own work and thinking about how to learn and educate myself on police policies, maybe stuff that is causing a major kind of exponentiating this violence we're seeing so often. And I came across a really good piece of research-based data, and it's this thing that I wrote a note down so I don't forget it, but Dr. Phil Goff's Center for Policy Equity. It's called the Toolkit for Equitable Public Safety, and I can try to share it in the email. We were all invited to do the Zoom so everybody can see it. It's dense, fair warning. It's a lot of info, but it's really comprehensive, and there's a lot of cited sources that kind of share statistics on ways that we can limit police intervention in our communities, improve community well-being through just kind of protection over punishment, those kinds of ideas and policies. And I'm new to the Palo Alto area, as I mentioned, so I don't know the history of police. I know some of the issues brought up about the East Palo Alto community. I agree with Stewie and everybody saying that I agree it's very problematic, that divide. Going to a protest there about 2 months ago, I was baffled with the diversity in that community that I saw represented. And in a positive surprise, but just confused at oh, it's just across one roadway. What? So yeah, if we don't find, like Stewie said, if we don't find people in this community, maybe we can work actively to source those people and bring them here, invite them with funding. So I'm pretty excited by everybody's agreeing on all these topics, and I'm going to work hard myself and bring these conversations into my familial networks and friends, and I think that's the start, and I'll just end there.
Cool. I also agree with everything that you've been saying. Like the Facebook and police and tech companies that need to be taxed from the beginning. I think my call to action on top of all those things would be first the personal part, where every single member of the resident in Palo Alto should take a look at their biases and how that contributes to the system of systematic racism. And the second is like social, civic, or political, like for the community to elect members who will bring change and who are in support of divesting the police and funding community, protecting the community. Because I see that, you know, some members are like just put like implicit bias trainings once a month, but the real change that should come out of this action that Black Lives Matter is that they should have the general fund of like 35 million per 43 million per year into communities of color, like Palo Alto, like East Palo Alto, making sure that gentrification isn't getting to them by like, what was it, by doing something to the property taxes where it doesn't affect them that much, and basically just making, with the council members, making sure that they will bring real change to the community. And I was in a phone call with Mayor Feinstein, and he told me that majority of the admin of the city was actually opposed to Mural. This is really terrible news. So it just means there's a lot more work to do within the community, especially the council, because they're just people that don't really support this, from what Feinstein told me, or Mayor Feinstein, I forgot I think I messed up his last name. Anyways, yeah, so there's a lot more to do, especially within the political community in Palo Alto.
Hey, anybody else? We do have more time, so don't let the time boundary kind of keep you down. I just want to interject something here, though. And Stuart, to what you were saying, I grew up in San Jose, and I grew up in East San Jose, and I'm a proud East Side kid, and I always say that. But the natural boundary seemed to be 101. If you were east of 101, it's like East Palo Alto, East San Jose. 101 seems to be the boundary line. So I understand what you're saying there about those types of things. That's why do we have those distinctions? All right, another question that I have is, if this was your first public art project, would you apply for others? And realize that this process was kind of streamlined because we were under the deadline to get it out and get it done as soon as possible. But with this experience, and now thinking about public art, and the process now is a little more stringent than this one was, would you apply for another public art project?
I would say yes. This was my first public art project simply because I've always wanted to do installation art, but I didn't go through the traditional way, the traditional path. So I started, I'm way overeducated, but I started in the sciences, pre-med, and then philosophy. And then I went into international management. And then I went into women's spirituality and creative expression. And then I went into expressive arts and social change. So for me, it was a completely different entryway into the art scene. Or the art industry as a profession. So a lot of it for me was kind of figuring it out. So if I hadn't kind of taken the leap to do that residency, that CASP residency, I don't even know how many years ago that was, I probably wouldn't have even known about it. So for me, yes, I absolutely would do it again. This was my first time, and I'm excited for future opportunities.
And Elizabeth, actually, if I can just ask you a question.
Absolutely.
So Elizabeth and I were neighbors. I was kind of envious because I way over prepared. I had like 3 carloads of stuff, and then Elizabeth walked out with like a box, and I was like, oh, that's what I should do. Because I do lots of public art, but then again, then you overthink. But in the photograph that they just showed of you painting. Your locks were like falling into your can of paint as you were working, which I thought was just a really kind of beautiful and poignant image, kind of like almost becoming one with like the work. And then you said that that was 10 years of growth and you just cut it. Do you want to share, like, was there anything in this process of expression or pushing yourself like in a new way? Like, what finally inspired you to cut 10 years of growth?
Yeah, and it does.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'll be brief, but for me, it absolutely was a very spiritual experience, which is how I live my life. I have always lived my life that way. And so it was funny because I found it so interesting. I was painting and painting and everybody kept coming. They're like, oh, can I help you? Because I was there by myself. I know people were like, I'm a Virgo, so I've already like overthought this whole process. I got it. I already know from backwards, forwards, how I'm going to put it together. And so I was like, no, I'm good. And for me, the whole time I was painting, it was like a ritual. So I'm a ritual performer. So for me, it was like I was in a liminal space, or what people would call a trance space. And I was able to, I felt as though I was channeling my ancestors and whomever else was resonating, and their ancestors of the people who were there participating as well. So for me, it was a very kind of ritualistic process, a meditative process. And I think, yeah, for me, being it kind of like coming around the reason why I left Palo Alto, I basically kept getting run into on the sidewalks by grown men. And then at that time I was trying to break into the art industry, and I was working service jobs, and it was just really, really rough. Like I said, I'm way overeducated for it, and I was just kind of like, okay, I got an opportunity in Oakland, and then I moved up there. So coming back for me was deeply healing. And so I think a lot of that process for me was also captured in the locks themselves. And I still had that paint in there. I still have those locks on my altar, but I still had that paint in there, and it stayed with me. So yes, I'll be brief, but yeah, that was a very powerful experience for me. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, for me, I'm a physicist and also a high-tech professional to start with. So I became an artist in the 2015. And and I did mural before in Harlem. And what I find very rewarding for me is the community involvement. And it's not just that the artists come. Yet when I did the mural at Harlem, I got help. The people will show up, and they're not artists. They will say, bring my paintbrushes or the paints. It's just this involvement is so rewarding for me. Even in the corporate world, when I worked, I was involved in a lot of the public stuff. So that part of community, that part of collaboration. And I love the opportunity if I get to do it again, because that experience is nothing compared to when I do my individual work, which is very different. I do also artwork on science. And I love to help out, because in New York, I did that with the kids. Through art, I sort of like express the science, the deeper beauty of science, because I'm a physicist. That abstract beauty is so powerful. And if I can use art and storytelling, I feel I can relate to the kids, and the kids can relate to science. So which is very different than the public art. So I like both domain, to be very honest. And I love the opportunity if I get another one. Thank you.
Shiraaz, did you want to?
Sure, yeah, sure. Just a simple one word answer, yes, I would love to. And definitely, I think for me, just collaborating with other people and working with other people is just such an amazing experience. So yes.
Yeah, kind of adding on to that. just to be brief, like definitely yes. I'm very passionate about like social issues, sociology, and I liked how I was able to bring it into the work I did, and just the community. Like it really felt like it's very different from the studio experience. And although this was my first mural, I'm definitely interested in doing more in the future, especially because it just taught me a lot about my own artistic ability and what I wanted to do. So I appreciate the opportunity.
One of the more I guess understated elements of this project was the support from the volunteers. And you don't quite know who you're going to get on the day. We had a wide range of personalities that made it quite interesting.
You did.
But I think what worked out really well for Adam and I, especially having to collaborate and keep a unified sort of visual, is that you have to let go of your personal taste in certain ways, right? Like there has to be a little bit of functionality, there has to be a speed concern, there has to be just certain operational things. And I think having projects like this start off with a bit more creative direction when there's a very specific end goal, such as the text Black Lives Matter, it could really help to get more people involved where they're coming in very low stakes. They're not too worried about generating their own images, but they want to take part. And you can get a much bigger sort of resulting image or a further reaching scope of the project. So I understand the appreciation for having individual artists submit their designs, but maybe a part of a commission in the future could be, here's a design, and then we're just going to get as many people to come and join in, and then you can do multiple of those a little bit more streamlined.
There you go. Thank you, Stuart. Anybody else?
I was going to just add, just really briefly, yes to doing it again. That'd be awesome in the future, and I'll definitely look out for things to apply to. But also just I said earlier about the kind of nature of site specificity in regards to public art. And I know Stewie and I had a conversation, I'm sure other artists did too, about this being on the roadways, which I guess is like this economic sort of like, I guess, national trend we're doing, where we putting it so we got aerial views and can kind of use all the space for the message. But I would definitely look forward to public art that has less of a temporal nature. And that's just something I think that I'm sure you guys are considering already, but definitely first time ever painting on a road. And not sure that I'm really energized to do that again, but I probably would if it was this crew. So yeah.
And it was hot.
Well, at least we don't have the smoke, right? The smoke that we have now, so a little more comfortable.
And I do want to add too that this was not my idea, and I'll give full credit to Elise and Nadia, and that we decided with this, when there was this call, that we actually did not require that people submitted a curriculum vitae. And so we were trying to give a lot of people the option to participate in this mural. And I think we got a number of people who did not have, your standard resume, which was really just a nice opportunity. And we hope that we'll be able to think of ideas like that in the future, where we can entice more artists who might not have a strict kind of background. And so that's one way that we are, as a community and as the Art Commission, trying to move forward, including more voices. So I just want to thank you all too for coming in and just participating and showing us what you have to offer. Really inspiring.
Yeah, thank you, Nia. And to that, there is a call out right now there's a temporary mural project in Palo Alto, and there's a call out for that for artists. So you may want to take a look at that as well. Any other comments or anything about the project that you want to say? Anything?
I just want to emphasize that I think there should be more community engaging art. Like, it'd be cool to have an idea of where to have the mural and then invite community members to just make the piece. I think that would be really fun for the community, and to see the product in the end would be energizing almost, because it was so spontaneous and an activity. But that's just my idea. Yeah. And also, I would do it again. Yeah.
Is it possible to get the Silicon Valley entrepreneurs to also fund some of this so that we can also do a lot of work in East Palo Alto as well? Some of the programs that someone mentioning about the school children.
I have some friends who are in East Palo Alto. If you wanted to connect to them individually, just feel free to shoot me an email, and they're constantly doing artistic, community-oriented work with youth, and they'd be able to point you in the right direction.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth. Hey, anything else? Nia, do you have any other comments?
No, I'm just so, I really just have to say, I'm just amazed and honored and thrilled to just see this. I don't want to even say it's the end to this particular project. I think it's just the beginning. And I'm also, I'm looking at the attendee list, and I see we have some wonderful City of Palo Alto employees and some city council members. And I just also want to say thank you to the city for moving this forward. I know it was not an easy discussion at times, probably, but I'm so grateful that the city did this. And this particular project actually came from our Percent for Art program that is really just critical. And to just, I'm going to remind the artists and also those listening that the arts are so critical to ensuring that our community is happy and has positive experiences in the arts. As we all know, they create dialogue and create discussion and create just inspiration. And so I just want to remind everybody how important the arts are, and we are grateful for the city for enabling us to do all these amazing projects that we get to do.
Thank you, Nia, and thank you all for participating tonight. It's been a wonderful panel. We've had a lot of wonderful insights into everything. Thank you all for participating. And the arts are a way to make our lives normal, and you have done that with this project. So thank you all very much. I want to thank Elise and Nadia for their support, and they do just a great job in public art in Palo Alto. So I want to thank them and give them their due. So thank you all for participating. And up on the screen, you'll see links to our social media for our Instagram, Facebook, and also a link to our website if you want to get more information. And I encourage you, please, to participate in public art and apply when you can. You've all done a wonderful job. Thank you all for attending tonight.
I have a question.
And, yes.
Thank you.
I was talking about the Sada Secure thing, and then I think Nia said we would get back to that later. Was there anything else you guys wanted to add on top of that?
So repeat the question, Urna, I couldn't hear you very clearly.
So in the first question I talked about the Sada Secure mural thing in the media, and I was wondering if you guys had anything else to add on top of what I said.
Oh, yeah, we can definitely, we do have some time if anybody wants to talk about the Asada Shakur and any of the, I will tell you from my experience, I was, one of the powerful things about art is that it creates dialogue. And I think that we opened up a dialogue for a lot of people, whether there's positives and negatives that came out of this dialogue, but I think it was just got people talking. And that's one of the reasons I love art so much, is that you can agree to disagree, but it just gets people talking. And people might not have known about Asada unless they saw the mural. So it's really important that we have that opportunity. And so thank you. Yes.
And I'm glad the city took the artistic route of doing the BLM instead of the yellow letters that a lot of other cities have done. And this just the expression, the individual expression of each letter I just lend so much more to this project. So thank you all for that as well. Elizabeth, happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday.
Thank you so much.
We'll celebrate. All right, and thank you all again for participating and doing your individual letter. It really means a lot, and I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful project that we have out there. So thank you all very much.
Thank
And we
you.
look forward to seeing all of your faces in some form in the future. So thank
Sure.
you all.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us from the virtual cloud. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.